Hello again. I'm going to see if I can do this in one video. I'll judge whether or not I'm going to make it. This is the 91st day, first video of the day, and maybe the only one. I'm still teaching syntax, Reed-Kellogg diagramming, and I'm coming to subordination. I said that there are 7 processes involved. Subordination and ellipsis are the last 2. Now, with subordination, stuff gets very, very interesting. Complicated looking, because now we can take entire sentences and move them around. Now our pieces in a sentence can become very big and complex. Subordination means putting something under the power of something else. Well, there are 3 kinds of subordinate clauses. I'd like to remind you that a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate. Sometimes subordinate clauses are called dependent clauses, as opposed to the independent clause, which is not subordinated, or the main clause. Sometimes it's called. Perhaps in British teaching they may call it the matrix clause, but I'm not sure of that. Anyway, there are 3 kinds. I'll deal with 2 of them now and save adjective clauses for tomorrow. I'm going to start with adverb clauses. In a way, they seem to be the easiest. I inserted this. They act like adverbs. They modify, just like adverbs do, and are introduced by a subordinating conjunction, QV. Now, in the chart that I have shown you several times and referred to, in that chart, I separated out the subordinating conjunctions. They do not join things on an equal basis, but rather put one thing under the control of another. If, for example, I used to teach my students in public school that imagine I step into the room and I'd said, "If you study," and then left. I wouldn't have really said anything. But if I stepped in the sentence, in the room and said, "You will pass," and left, I would have said something. That's independent. But by putting the word "if" there, you're left thinking, well, what? If you study, well, what? That's subordination. That's the way I try to explain it. Well, as an example, so anyway, QV, you should probably look at that list. I would say there are maybe 10, maybe 15 subordinating conjunctions. The coordinating ones are few. And, or, but, sometimes for, nor. Subordinating ones, there are more. Well, as an example, before he ate lunch, he worked. Well, right there is the subordinating conjunction. Right there's the subordinating conjunction. And when you would diagram it, you see here we've got predication. He ate. Ate tells something about that subject. He ate. And here's also predication. He worked. He worked. I could step in the door and say, "He worked," and leave, and I would have said something. But if I stepped in the door and said, "Before he ate," I wouldn't have finished. Well, the way you would, this is the subordinate clause. This is the adverb clause. And when you use Reed-Kellogg diagramming to show it, I would capitalize the V, and what you do with the subordinating conjunction is you put it on a dashed line and you join the simple predicates. So it's clear that the sentence begins here. Before he ate lunch, he worked. Now, I'd like you, I usually don't erase as I'm going, but today I'm going to. I'd like you to compare that to a sentence like, before lunch he ate, before lunch he worked, before lunch he worked. Well, in a case like that, he worked before lunch. Before would not be a subordinating conjunction. It would be a preposition. Here's a prepositional phrase modifying. When did he work? Before lunch. When did he work? Before lunch he worked. Whereas in the other one, when did he work? Before he ate lunch. The difference is that now we've got predication. This is a clause. All right, there are adverb clauses. Maybe that's way too fast. Probably it is. Now, there are noun clauses. Well, the noun clauses, these act like nouns. To be a clause, you've got to have predication. Otherwise, it's not a clause. And are often introduced by a function word. Now, I've thought to myself, or other people have suggested too, maybe that should be considered another part of speech. Usually they say there's 8 parts of speech, or maybe 7. Well, maybe 9. Because the word that is a function word which is often used. And there are a couple others. With an infinitive, if I say to sing, the to at the beginning is sometimes called a function word. It certainly is not a preposition there. Anyway, noun clauses act like nouns and are often introduced by a function word, by the function word that. So, the Lord is my shepherd is what I quoted. Now, that's capitalized thus, so I know the sentence starts there. Lord is capitalized by convention. The Lord is my shepherd. Now, there's a clause. Lord is. There is the simple predicate and the simple, the simple subject and the simple predicate. We have predication. All of that needs to go there, because what is what I quoted? The Lord is my shepherd. You have to take that whole package. That's the simple subject. So all of that goes there. We use a stand for that. Is what I quoted. Now there's that business with Reed Kellogg, is it looks like you would read it, I quoted what? But in the Reed Kellogg system, you're supposed to be able to figure out that no, that's not what's being said. Certainly the predication is I quoted. Simple subject, simple predicate. I quoted something. Well, what, in this case, would be a pronoun taking the place of all of that. One other example I'll give you of this is let's say you had a sentence like, he thinks that I am a Christian by what I quoted. In a case like that, he thinks, what's he think? He thinks what? He thinks, I am Christian. I am a Christian. He thinks that I am a Christian. Now there's that function word, which could be there or not. It doesn't have to be there. When I was in college at Harvard, I remember being taught that in the style that we had to use to write papers, they really wanted us to use the word that in a case like that. You could say, he thinks I'm a Christian. He thinks that I'm a Christian. At that point, in terms of style, they felt it was better. He thinks that I'm a Christian. Why does he think that? He thinks that by attitude, by my attitude. Well, there would be a prepositional phrase. But if I said, he thinks that by what I quoted. I quoted. There we've got predication. I quoted, and I quoted what? So here we've got a noun clause acting as the object of a preposition. Here we've got a noun clause acting as the direct object of that action verb. He thinks food. He thinks that I am a Christian. They can be in other places as well. Well, as with everything else, this is rather hurried, but now I feel that tomorrow and Friday, this is Wednesday, tomorrow and Friday I can deal with adjective clauses, and then we'll almost be finished. With just a few touches next week, I can finish syntax. See you tomorrow.